Hi, this is Eli Ochiltree of the SnoKing Beekeepers Association. And tonight we're going to talk a lot about swarms and the crazy weather and the challenges of having the blackberry flow rained on in the first few days. We're going to get to that. But before that, we have a special guest. We have Tim 80, who is, I guess you'd call you the beekeeping events supervisor at the Evergreen State Fair each year, been doing it for years. That includes the outdoor beekeeping exhibits and the indoor exhibit and the honey and wax entries and all the other entries for beekeeping products and the judging for it. So we're going to let Tim speak first because he's on a tight time schedule. So Tim, you're going to have to introduce yourself the rest of the way. You've been
Oh,
beekeeping forever and you have hives, and
I don't
I've
know
known
about
you,
forever. I
and you
know
mentored me for no, you were in my journeyman class and now you're
Eli and
still
I were
mentoring
in the
me.
same journeyman class. I am not a master beekeeper.
Yes, you are. You just didn't take any
Just
titles.
journeyman. Um, but yeah, I'm Tim 80. I am open class honey superintendent at the fairgrounds, and I also like to think I'm in charge outside too. But I work really hard, try to show as many bees as possible. I love beekeeping. And one of the fun parts about this is honey, and being part of the open class honey division or department. It's at the fairgrounds. I am here trying to get all of you to enter honey in the fair this year. It's easy, it's fun. You get a lot of rewards for, you get your blue ribbons, you get your everything. You can say I've got award-winning honey. So when all your friends are there, you could bring them over to the fair and say this is mine. Yeah, and beam about it because you've done a good job. And almost it's a brief thing about the ribbons: blue ribbons, red ribbons, white ribbons. Those are all good honeys. They're all sellable, things like that. The blue ribbon, because we use the Danish system for judging. And so it's based on points, not everything else. So the judges will sit down and they will mark out or down or whatever for different things. And so they we have, 90 to 100 is a blue ribbon, and it is not hard to score that. I one time got a red ribbon, and my father-in-law and I do beekeeping together at that time, and he got a blue ribbon, and like we did this at the same time, and I was just 1 point below the mark, and he got the blue ribbon, I got the red ribbon, and it was just fun. But what I'm here tonight is to hopefully get you to want to enter something in the fair. And all ages in honey are judged the same. So we don't have a junior class or a senior class. The bees don't care what age we are, so we don't either. Let's see. What I'm going to just basically go through the handbook the of the different types of categories and what they are. Um, and so I'll just jump into that, go through them. You can either put questions in the chat box or just ask. I'm going to run through it a little fast, I think. So the first category we have is extracted honey. And so when you enter them, you enter of every different color, and they're judged by color, not what type of honey it is. So knotweed and blackberry, yes, they're different colors, and they're only judged on the color, not with that other categories. There's 8 different categories from water white to extra dark amber. Uh, you enter 3 jars, and all the jars are like, this one is a queen line jar. It's a 12-ounce jar, which will hold 1 pound of honey. You can also get regular jars like this, not mason jars. These are unlabeled. There's nothing on there. And when I'm saying like unlabeled, let's see if I can see it. I don't know if you can see the cur written on the side of that jar. So that's what we you can't have. That would be a disqualification. But those other 2 jars are good. And with that, there's proper way to fill them. And I'll do this one again. It's right at below the band. There's a ring, a glass ring here. The honey should be up and right in the middle of that glass ring. This one would, for the fair, would be considered low, but by weight, it is actually 1 pound. So it'll be a little bit too much honey in there, but that's for the fair for judging. And they're good. That's points that would be taken off if it's low or above that line. And this is the same ring is here on the queen line jar. We have ways to get imperfections out of our honey. When we do it early like this, you can go ahead and you put this up there. I take saran wrap and I push it down so it is touching the honey. And so you overfill your jars while you're getting ready. And then when it's time to get ready for the fair, you pull this off. It's been sitting there for a week or 2, and it pulls off all the imperfections. Then you just have to lower it down to the right height. So you've overfilled your jars, all the wax particles have come up, debris, now they've settled out. You peel it off with that saran wrap, and you've got nice clean honey. You bring it down, and it's ready for the fair. Other things they look at while they're looking at your honey, they're going to taste it. You'll get almost all of your honey back. They taste with a little tasting stick, so they don't take that much. They're going to check for your lids when they take the lid off. If you like tip it and you got honey on the top of the lid, it's not as clean. That's is a markdown, and that's something some people will stretch saran wrap over out of the honey so in case the jar tips on the way to the fairgrounds, then take that off right as you're entering it and getting it in. And that's pretty much it for the extracted honey. Like I said, there's 8 different colors. If you have 8 different colors of honey, you can enter 8 different sets of 3 jars. Another category is chunk honey. It's any comb honey that you place in the jar and you surround it with honey, and also you will submit 3. So you'll want all your combs to be the same size. And if you freeze them before you cut them, you can get it really nice and clean while you put it down inside the jar. And there's only one entry available, so no matter what color it is. You have comb honey, which is actually cut comb. You usually about 3-inch squares in plastic containers. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed it. I misspoke. Uh, I guess I did. The top one is a frame, and you wrap them with saran wrap. What you have is you'll pull a frame. You say you've got a brand new frame this year. They put beautiful white wax all up here, and it's just wall to wall, almost no uncapped honey, full. Like this has imperfections up here, so that would be the markdown. But some of those honey supers are just beautiful, and that's one you need both sides, unblemished, no fingerprints, things like that. And that is judged on how good it is. And then the next section is the square or the round sections. If somebody does Ross rounds, those those are entered in that section. Um, and there you put them in the half comb cassettes. Um, and the cut comb is where you actually do cut the 3-inch squares, and you put them in like if you go to the bakery, you can get some of them plastic donut or cake covers that they'll give out to you for free, so you can enter that. If you tell anybody at the bakery or that you want something because it's for your bees, they're usually all over it. Another one of our things we enter is beeswax. Um, there are different types. They're a single block of honey. It needs to be 1 pound or greater. Um, and it's really sad when you come within a couple ounces of a pound. So um, if anybody's close to the UPS store in Snohomish, if you bring your honey in there and weigh it, we'll check it for you there. Because it really is sad to disqualify something that's so beautiful just because it's a couple ounces short of 1 pound. It can be over, it just can't be under. And it does not have to be. This is a nice little beeswax mold. In the past, I've got the best of division, and I used an old potato salad tub, and so it doesn't, that part doesn't matter. It's what it's like. Is it clean, pure? You don't want to see any pollen in it. You want the smell there, just everything like that. So, but and you can filter that like through an old t-shirt, or one Jean used to use. She used to own Bee's Knees years ago, but she used to use sweatshirt material because it's even gets it even finer. Uh, and candles, third, you can do, if you do dipped candles, it's a pair, and the top the I'm sorry, I'm pointing down here where I can see. The wick does need to be connected on a dipped candle, because that shows that you dip them. If you cut them apart, you can actually buy molds. Um, and that and they have to be 4 ounces total weight between the pair. Um, Candles, oh, that was dipped. You can do things like novelty items, like I've done little what you made candy hearts out of, and a silicone. I've made 3 of those to get up to my weight one year, and that's also a 4-ounce weight. Uh, then molded candles. You submit in a pair, and you want to pour them out of the same color of wax, because if I would enter these, I hope it shows up on the screen, but they are different colored wax. They're close, but that actually is, it's judged, and they should be identical pairs. And so you have to fill up your candle mold the same and everything. And it's fun to say, this is good. Some of this stuff is just beautiful. A pollen, if you collect pollen, you have to do 3 jars in a 12-ounce queen line, full, just like honey, but you do 3 jars of that, and they should look similar. And the judges will taste them, make sure you haven't over dried them or not dried them. And actually, that's not good for pollen, because that will actually spoil. You do need to dry it out a little bit. Gadgets. You say you came up with an idea, you're going to try something different in your bee yard. There's so many different ways to do it. Say you want to put a new ventilation top on there with plexiglass, so you can view, and you drill holes in it so that you can get ventilation through. You just say, this is what I did, and it's a little typewritten thing or statement saying, this is what I expected, this is what happened. And I use that as an example because I've seen it, and the bees propolised every one of them holes. But yeah, that was there. That's a gadget. And then one of the most fun entries everybody has is the heaviest frame. And it's not pretty, it's not for beauty, it's just for weight. And which you can get that by putting empty frames next to one that's getting drawn out, and they will just keep building on the one rather than start the new ones. And this in is, it's like, this is a nice frame, things like that, but it's not capped off, it's not pretty, it's pollen in the bottom of that. So, and the other side isn't even capped off yet. So this would be a frame you could bring in for that. It doesn't have to look pretty, but you just want it to weigh the absolute most it possibly could. So I believe that oh, one more educational display, making a poster about bees, or you're pollinating, or just honey. And then you'll get that entered. They'll let us give it over to us, and we get to display it in our area as well. And that pretty much runs in the whole everything you can enter. I didn't see any questions pop up. What I have started, though, so people can ask questions outside of the club and things like that. I've started a group book for open class honey. So it's Evergreen State Fair Open Class Honey. So if you search that, it is a group you have to request. You have to answer a couple simple questions, and you can come in, ask questions there. And I'd like to see who can be the third person as a thing, because it's a brand new Facebook group. We're good. just getting ready. My wife was able to be the second one in, so we'll see who gets to be the third. And that we will hopefully have a link to the class. I'm Department P, which is honey at the fair in the open class section. Also, if you're trying to get to the everything I just read, you can go to evergreenfair.org and search open class, and then just go down to the honey section. And that'll give you the whole PDF on what's going on. There is a link in there to sign in online. I've got to contact them because it wasn't working as of an hour ago. So, but that will be up and running. Yeah, and if it's a face group. Okay, you just re-entered it. Okay, I was all right. I am open to any quick questions if you have them, or long questions if you have them, I guess. I mainly hear about honey. And then if not, I'm going to turn the meeting back over to Eli.
Just a real quick question. Where do we get the jars to enter the honey again? I'm sorry. I think I missed that.
Oh, the Queen Line jars I purchased through Dayton's, or any of the local bee stores would have them.
Okay.
The smaller round ones like this, I bought from Uline. They're just a 12 ounce jar, and you buy the lids from them too. And you don't get marked down in today's era for that. Back in the 50s, they used to buy a whole box of jars so they could get 3 usable ones because there's blemishes in jars, and they're not, judges are not supposed to mark down for that. But
and we're not labeling the jars, right?
no, it's clear like this. It's clear like this. So you know, if I pick this up, I don't know who this belongs to. That's what the judges are looking at. They're looking at uniformity, uniformity in color, things like that. And it's very simple. Like I say, 3 jars and any colors of honey. I don't know what you have left from last year, or you got right now. Hopefully you get some nice blackberry this year. And that's be a good one. You could pull and extract next month and have it all ready.
For
not granulated though.
No. And but well, and like I say, go to the Facebook group, and that's a good place to ask those questions like that. You know, because I'm open to all that, and we can help each other be better.
Okay. Yeah, I have a few more questions, but I certainly will go ahead and post them in Facebook. Thank you.
But you know, if you're willing to share them, others might have the same questions and we could try to answer real quick.
Okay. It comes to the framed honey, right? The
Yes.
cap. You gave me a couple of good hints last year, but like freezing it maybe.
Yes, when you pull it out of the hive, you know, while you're doing an inspection, you found the perfect frame. Bring it in, set it in a freezer. It'll be nice and hard. Then you'll be able to wrap it, and it's safe in there, and you won't get any wax moth or anything, even though you shouldn't. But
yeah,
they don't always read the book either.
And I've never frozen honey. Does anybody here on the call know how long it takes for it to thaw out? Does it matter?
Well, this one here that I was holding up was frozen about an hour and a half ago, and it's not doesn't feel frozen anymore.
Wow, that was fast. Okay. All right.
I do that to keep down the wax moths, and then I can feed this to the newer nukes and things like that.
Okay.
And it doesn't crystallize while it's frozen.
Yep.
Any other questions? And you can always go to that Facebook group, and this is recorded. And actually, Tim's presentation last year with I think you actually showed pictures or something, or an outline or something last year. That's still on our YouTube list under the monthly meetings. I'll look up which one, okay? And send it out as a link.
Oh, just one more quick question. Sorry. So all over the state of Washington, so this contest here at the Evergreen State Fair, it's not limited to geographic. Anybody can submit from all over the state.
Yes, you can submit. Those of you that are further away might have a little issues in getting it to us, but that's something to put in a group too, and we can figure out logistics of something like that, because it
Okay.
it would be kind of interesting. I know the ranges and things like that, everything has to be from this side of the mountains, but I have not been told I'm restricted on where to accept it from.
Plus, the Evergreen State Fair is the official state fair for Washington, right? This is the official one.
Yeah, the Puyallup is a fair, but and they
And it's a
call
state
themselves
fair,
it's a
but it's
state fair
not
as well.
the state fair.
Correct. There's in the fair world, there's but,
Okay, everybody's sitting there thinking, can I really do this? And the little
everybody
guy,
can do it. As very simple, and it's so much fun. And like I say, you get to have your friends come to the fair and see what you do.
and there was that little guy that got the heaviest, was it a shallow or a Western frame? Remember the
Oh,
little guy getting his picture
yes,
taken in front of all the display
yeah,
and the
it,
ribbons?
ribbons. What's her? Sorry, I'm
Oh,
forgetting
he's
her
like
name.
5, 6,
Well,
7 years
Heidi
old.
was there last. You were there last year, correct, Heidi?
Yes.
Yeah, when we had that one frame that we did the extra few ribbons on, just
Yeah.
he he was so excited. What is he, 8 years old or
Yes,
7 years old?
he was little.
And that was a beautiful frame of honey that he
Oh,
was able to pull out.
yeah. I saw him when I was attending that space right there while you were on break. And he and his family came over, and I think he had cousins and just friends, and followed him over. And when he first discovered, well, no, you were there. He first discovered that he won, and I mean, he was just hooping and hollering and dancing, and just he was so thrilled. It was such a big deal for him.
You don't have to be that young to enjoy what you just did.
Yeah, he just it was great to see him so thrilled.
I have a question. How do we sign up for the judge training if I'd like to be able to get on that next year? I think, like I said, it's full this year. Working on my master's, but I'd be interested in taking the judges training.
Yeah, it's pretty simple. You talk to Eli and try to get on the list.
Okay.
Probably do it sooner than later, because there's probably a lot of people trying to get there, trying to get their journeyman, trying to get.
Mhm. But there's also other fairs too. We're
Yes.
not the only fair that does a honey judging competition.
I know I entered mine up.
Puyallup must do a token honey judging,
I
don't they?
I don't know, and I haven't tried theirs. I did
Yeah,
Skagit
but
last year.
try where you are first. Try that side of the sound, because I know that I happen to know that Michael's over the
Oh, okay.
Quilcene area, so there's some opportunities over there.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
probably a lot of opportunity for you to help them with theirs. And each one's gonna have a little bit different, how they judge. Like Skagit is only 2 jars of honey. It's not 3, it's, yeah. So it's a little different, look at their rules. But
Yeah,
most
we
of
have,
them do the Danish system for judging.
yeah, I was at our, at the West Sound, Bee Club meeting last night. Sandy Fanara judges for the Kitsap County Fair. But I didn't know if there was like a universal, uh, uh, protocols for the judging like the UK does at National Honey Show and that sort of thing, or if it's each fair is judged differently.
I'm a
Or
lot more open than some probably, because I want people to learn. Some of it is closed. A lot of times to get into that, to break into that, like in the UK's, I mean, you're a runner for years before you get a chance to actually sit down and judge. So, but I don't run it that way because I want people to learn.
Okay, more questions, or is everybody gonna go join the honey discussion group, which probably has person number 3 by now?
I hope to, and I'm looking forward to that, and I want to us to grow as a group as well, just because we can help each other.
Yep. Beekeepers, only beekeepers really understand beekeepers. Well, thanks
I
a lot,
thank you
Tim.
all for your
Yeah,
time. It's
yeah. Appreciate this. I know it was short notice and everything, but when meetings are only every month, see, you can get started right now on your largest possible honey frame and saving up that very best wax. And see, Heidi's putting up lots of thumbs up. I like, you can see Heidi doing them.
I see her in the
Right, yeah.
corner here.
She knows how to do that. That's kind of neat. Okay. And everybody knows how to go get their block of beeswax weighed at the for free at the UPS in Snohomish on Avenue D in Snohomish.
We do cars for the scouts. We can do anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
We'll see you there. Everybody's going to volunteer to be at the fair, so everybody's going to be there, right? And see Tim in person. Okay. Thank
I
you.
appreciate this.
We love it. We're looking forward to it. Okay. So, jumping on to the next section. Okay. Why does that door look really familiar? Okay. If I'm assuming everybody would kind of like to talk about what's going on in our hives. So unless somebody has something they really want to say, I'll put up a few slides about that to get the conversation going. Because let's see, we got Mike with a Y is on the swarm team list for the club. Tony's been doing it over in Quilcene along with we're over with Michael Duncan in the East Jefferson Bees Club. Everybody's been talking about this. Oh, so let me start some slides and you can interrupt me anywhere along. This is not a formal presentation. I just thought I'd throw up some stuff about this has been crazy weather. The swarms are off and on. I don't think they're finished. We're now having good weather. You know what they say, warm after a storm, expect a swarm. When it warms up, after the bees have been repressed, quite often that's when you see the swarms come. So interrupt me, okay? I know I'm a little difficult sometimes. I will go ahead and share screen with my presentation. Just to get us going, okay? Yep, there's a picture of blackberries. And I want to see Tim's pictures of the bees getting so exhausted they stay on the blackberry flowers as the flower closes around them for the night. And then they just pick up the next morning and return to the hive. That sounded really neat. I hope he posts that on the honey Facebook, his discussion group. Mike is here. Any questions? This is a good time to hit him in the chat. There's his information. I think I put the information in the newsletter. The Granite Falls Apiary hasn't fully opened. Ron needs help. He ripped up his rotator cuff. He's on physical therapy. If there's anybody who could commit to, he usually does Sunday afternoons like every other Sunday. Please give him a call, give him a text. He would be happy to stand there and let you work on his hives. I really, really think he would. And he's a really easygoing guy, but he can't set up the apiary himself. At the Maltby Apiary, we're just going ahead and we're getting a lot of people to help. I wish, kind of in a lot of ways, I wish we'd get that kind of help for Ron. We're on at the Maltby Apiary for Saturdays through August 10th. And we are not giving up, although when it rained really, really hard last Saturday at the queen rearing workshop, we did have an inside meeting and talk a lot about burrow-sensitive hygiene and swarms and how do you know if you got a drone-laying queen, and we covered a lot of topics. It absolutely poured rain during exactly the 1 to 3 p.m. period. Okay, but it isn't going to this weekend. We're good for this weekend. We have people coming. Come join us, even if it's sort of short last minute notice for the sort of general hive management or for the queen workshop. You don't need any training for the queen workshop. We stand there and explain to you. And that's okay. If we spend half the time explaining, that is good. We need to check a lot of hives for queen cells that have emerged, queens that should be laying eggs by about Saturday is about the earliest. They should be laying eggs and we should see them if they were successful on the earliest mating flights. There were a few swarm cell queens that there's a very good chance we could see eggs in those hives on Saturday. We need to do checks through everybody, basic maintenance. That's the biggest thing we have to do on Saturday. And that can be really interesting. Seeing those queens, seeing the eggs, doing marking of queens. On discussion groups, we're still forging ahead on that. So that's actually next Monday. Gina Cuff is again, she's a wonderful gal, is carrying through with the beginner, apprentice, and more advanced is welcome too. Check in for an hour next Monday and share what you're doing in your hives. What's going on? What's the concerns? What's the successes? Trophallaxis is for the people who've taken the academic journeyman and up. We're doing July 3rd. And nobody else voted for a topic, so I said requeening. Why do people requeen? Some people requeen every single year. So I thought we could talk about that, how you do it, but especially why. Some people are great advocates of it. And I need to beg for help on one thing. This Saturday, Randy, who is here, Randy Green, has volunteered to be the person who 12 to 5 is down there at Medicine Creek Winery in Olympia. And I really don't want to stick him there by himself alone. We've got to come up with 1 or 2 people down there. It's kind of a short day, except that you end up putting up the awning, putting up the tables, which you're taking down with you. And Randy cannot bring them back. So either I try to get down there really fast on Saturday afternoon, or if there's somebody here who knows they could bring those tables and awnings and things back at 5 o'clock from Olympia, or pick them up and bring them back a later day in the week. That would be okay too. Randy, do you want to put any special requests or just have people get a hold of you in the chat maybe because you're here, or?
Well, I don't know exactly what the needs are going to be. I've seen that there's my video.
Yeah.
What I'm going to have to do is to arrange to come by your place and pick up all the setup equipment. Chances are I might try to do that on Friday. Is that going to work for you?
Friday would be best. And I was hoping to get an observation hive together. Didn't do it today, so tomorrow. That's a real crowd pleaser. You don't have to do anything else. If you have an observation hive and people can go, ooh, I saw the queen, and you give them an I spotted the queen sticker, you are you are bee expert, you are a success, you're an instant celebrity. So this is definitely, that's the good part. And this is just a meet and greet. You don't have to know anything really. We're just saying we exist. I don't really like this event. WASBA is spending thousands on it. So if our dues are going to spend thousands on it, I figure we should get something out of it. So we're offered a free booth space and we're going to take it.
Well, just let me know how things develop in terms of picking up equipment or
Yeah.
other people who are going to be going down. Just let me know how things are going, but one way or another, I'll be emailing you about what time on Friday I'll swing by and pick things up.
Okay. And then
Sound like a plan?
hopefully somebody here will help out because it's just no fun to stand there, set up the whole thing by yourself, stand there for 5 hours. It's so much more fun if it's a couple of people. And so if anybody, I know it's a Saturday at the end of the year and it's going to be beautiful weather, but if there's any chance you can get down there to help set up or even to help bring this stuff back or store it until I could pick it up the next day. If there's anything you could do to help, please do. Thanks. Queen Rearing Workshop, I just wanted to say that it's coming along, whether it takes pink duct tape or whatever to hold it together. That's an interesting slide there. I should have cropped that. I had to move the hair curler cell protectors onto another frame, and that's why there's pink duct tape there. My life revolves around pink duct tape or duct tape of various forms, carabiner clips, cable ties, and I can manage most everything with those things. Evergreen State Fair is coming up fast, and that's what we were talking about. Sounds crazy to be planning now. Min is working on the sign-up genius for that. We already have a sign-up genius for the Queen Rearing Workshop. That should have been in the newsletter and on the Facebook discussion group, and I don't want to spend too long on announcements. I want to get to the fun part. I think that's all we really needed to say about announcements. I think that was it. My slides aren't in perfect order, but okay. What we're really worried about is the state of our hives. And we've had this crazy spring, which we thought the other springs, the last two were bad. Well, this one, it's different. It's not the same, but we have some pretty poor foraging weather and people are feeding their hives who don't usually feed their hives. There's actually been people letting their hives starve because they follow advice on the internet or did the way they've always done it other years. And the few hours per day of good weather or one nice day every third or fourth day, it doesn't feed a growing colony. And then it has other effects that are really weird. The colony can't grow in population because it's repressed. It's cutting back when it doesn't have the food. The weather's been repressing and weird things happen. When the weather holds a swarm back, I think you get a bigger swarm. Okay, that's not scientific, but from what people sort of report, the weather holds back the bees from swarming, and instead of just 50% taking off, they know that up to 75% can decide to take off. And then if you don't stop that, you end up with little swarms like that one on the tree in the picture here, where after swarms, little ones keep coming because there were so many queens in the hive and the bees were moving around so much, too many queens emerged. Then you've got poor mating flight weather, which raises the problem of poorly mated queens, which is a big problem here in Western Washington. And I don't hear it talked about often enough. And I threw in some of Colleen's pictures because we were just talking about a 90% unmated queen. It looks like she has a little bit of ability to lay worker brood, but almost all, I'll show those pictures in a minute, Colleen, almost all drone brood, but looks like a beautiful queen. So our brood nests are kind of crazy. Some of them are getting backfilled with pollen because there's really not a nectar flow going that the bees can get out to and really take advantage of. We still have hopes for honey though, because late years like this, when it rains, sometimes our bees do pretty well on weeds and other forage that isn't the main flow, but the extra high water table and a little extra rain takes them through the summer better. Hey, we can be hopeful, right? We're beekeepers. We're always optimistic. But the starvation has been a problem. I know that worker bees are different sizes at different times of the year. I'm not sure I can quote you research, but I think that's due to the nurse bees sort of rationing at times of the year. The earliest spring bees are often really small because they had to be raised by those old nanny bees that their hyperpharyngeal glands are probably not fully developed because they're months old by the time they're raising brood in the spring. And then if they're rationing too, because they're not getting enough. And the reason we feed 1-to-1, I don't know if anyone stops and thinks about it this way, but we raise 1-to-1 to imitate a nectar flow, a natural spring nectar flow. So we're trying to stimulate our brood spring goals, and we're trying to get the population increase up before the main nectar flow, blackberries, and we're trying to get the wax production up. Anybody replacing their wax, rotating it out every 3-5 years, or just when it looks gross, black, and yucky? That's more my standard. We're trying to get that population increase and that wax production, and it's easiest to do in the springtime nectar flow and hard to do late in the year. We're also trying to keep our nutrition up for our hives because we know that it depresses their immune system as a colony. Individual bees, but especially as a colony, poor nutrition leads to brood disease, for example, popping up. It's always getting repressed, just like our immune system fights. If we are strong and well-fed, then well-nourished, then the bees should be able to fight off disease too. And what's crazy is tomorrow, I believe, is the longest day of the year officially. And we're still looking at starvation threat, except the weather just got better, right? We are so optimistic because we are beekeepers. So I always feel like this is the public service announcement part of the meeting. Yes, the weather is challenging the bees and it's challenging us. And we're trying to kind of look for these hazards, like warm after the storm, you expect swarms. I hope that's going to die down, but I wouldn't be surprised if people are still experiencing swarming because the weather is so crazy. Bees are off schedule and they've been repressed. I tried to control swarming here in the malt bee apiary, and it was the first time I made the connection between if I'm really aggressively trying to keep a hive large, but keep it from swarming, and I'm doing checkerboarding and I'm under supering, I'm putting space in between in the middle of the stack instead of always adding the next box to the top like you do with honey supering. I'm deliberately saying, okay, I'll put some space in the middle of the stack and I'll do a little demarree. Take the queen away from a lot of her brood, put it above the queen excluder, put her with space to lay below the queen excluder. I messed with my bees. I kept almost all the hives from swarming. But you know what they did? They made swarm cells anyway, and the old queens disappeared, and they replaced them with new queens. Because they were already making the swarm cells, it didn't protect the older queens. And they still went through the whole swarm process of reducing the brood nest, which is what I was trying to keep them from doing for the queen workshop. So the bees won. I failed to understand them. And now with our workshop, we're hoping that those superseded queens, the supersedure queens, the young ones, that they will successfully mate, but we don't expect them all to because of this horrible weather. The ones that don't mate properly will turn into drone layers. And sometimes beginners don't realize why their populations keep dwindling when they have a gorgeous look. Oh, let me show you this gorgeous drone laying queen that Colleen just sent me the picture of coming up. And all this has a lot to do with the rain dearth, which I never hear anybody talk about it in the other 49.5 states. Are we alone here in Western Washington? So I thought I'd put in the pictures about our ideal spring buildup brood patterns, and some of you probably are seeing this. I hope you are. Gorgeous, compact brood with bee bread rings around. This rainbow here kind of is the bee bread ring, and still a little bit of honey up there in the corners, looking good. And yeah, and maybe even getting into, yeah, they ate up a lot of the honey, but they've got a nectar flow coming in and they're not worried. And then it's going to look different at different times. When you're reading your frames, you're going to see things different. But what I've seen is I was trying to keep them from swarming, and they still said it doesn't make any difference. We're not going to raise out that brood. We're not going to keep doing it. We're ready to collect now, even if we can't really fly very far and really get nectar. So I put in pictures here of backfilling, and the queen lays in the spiral and she lays. And then if the workers have decided they're not going to support her brood rearing anymore, largely because there's not enough nectar coming in, I've been seeing the pollen backfilling that I usually see in the late summer, early fall, in July, August, and until you hit the knotweed flow. Sometimes that interrupts it. So here's a queen. She laid a spiral and it emerged, and there's a little, and then she came back, she laid again in a spiral, but before she could get to the rest of her spiral, the workers filled it in with pollen. And I'm seeing that even more than nectar backfilling right now in the brood nest. And of course, we all know that if the brood nest gets backed up and backfilled, the hive as a whole may feel congested, and that's when the swarm cells start appearing. So I want to hear what everybody's doing. Are you all listening to the bees the best you can? And from visit to visit, seeing what the difference is. Every time you come up to the hive, right, I hope everybody listens to their bees, lifts that lid, inhales that wonderful aroma, is looking at how the bees are behaving at the entrance, is checking the slide out board, looking as soon as you start to open the lid. Do you need smoke? And sometimes really early in the year, the smaller hives, you really don't need smoke. You go in very quietly, but you have the smoker handy, right? But often you don't. How are they behaving? And then the changes. And that's where you start to notice they're swarming or they're starving or something, because you're looking at the ELC, the eggs, larva, cat brood. You're looking at the relative amounts. What did you see last time? You saw eggs, larva, cat brood last time. Well, now the eggs are missing, and maybe the eggs and the young open larvae are missing, and you have only cat brood, but you got a lot of cat brood. That can be a swarm signal when they're really laid up. Or the bee bread, are they just doing that backfilling in the middle? Or are they really short on pollen and they don't have enough bee bread and pollen because of the rain to feed their brood? And that backfilling with pollen, that to me always means they're struggling on the nectar intake. I love to put up the swarming and bearding picture. Bees shouldn't really be bearding in the spring around here, but it's really humid, so it's possible. It does look different. The picture on the left, the bees are all lined up facing the hive the same way, organized, hanging out together, and I think they're creating an air current in that by all facing the same way and operating their wings in the same pattern. They're getting an air current going. On the left-hand side, it kind of shows you the difference between when they're not that organized, they're kind of jittery, the swarm picture, but hanging out together, hanging off, all kind of oriented the same, hanging out together, chilling out together, versus looking like they're going to swarm. And this whole rain dearth that I don't know if they have in the rest of the United States, it can cause us so many problems. So if you're having troubles with your nukes, in packages, they can't really expand. Hopefully nobody's lost their nuke, because if you don't feed or you feed them what they can't take for some reason, they abscond. It's called hunger swarming, but it isn't really swarming. They totally leave, queen and everything. If they haven't got the food to raise the brood to grow, they just fly out. I call it the no food, no brood, let's fly. That's hunger swarming, or really it's a form of absconding. Absconding is when the hive says, we can't make it here. And if we can't make it, we're leaving. And the rain dearth is so important because we have this, the bees need carbs. I know I'm trying to cut my carbs down like most people. We're a little older, a little more sedentary, and we can't eat like teenagers anymore. But for the bees, they can't make wax without those carbs. 5 to 10 pounds of honey energy to make a pound of wax. But that pound of wax holds a lot of brood. It holds like more than 20 pounds of honey or pollen even. Yeah, a lot of pollen. And they need those carbs for the brood. The brood needs the carbs to grow. And if they don't raise the brood, if they cannibalize it because they say we can't feed it, we won't raise it. And they will follow the queen and take away the eggs. And then if things are really rough, they will cannibalize the smallest larvae and start throwing out drone pupae and the drones themselves. If we don't care so much about the drones, but I'm sorry, drones get a rap, they get a bad, I know, but we just don't care about them. It's terrible. But cannibalizing the brood means your lower population for foraging for the blackberry flow is going to impact your honey production. And can the hive build up the stores it needs for next winter? So this whole nutritional rain dearth problem has one effect after another, a whole cascade of effects inside our hives and for us as beekeepers. And yet our bees survive it, we manage it, we work it out. Signs of dearth, you're probably seeing weird things happening. And if it just would be good weather a few days in a row, they will find a nectar source, those blackberries. The blackberries can open once it stops raining for a day or so. Oh, Jen is here. Jen, I stole your picture, which is actually an October picture of the bees, the drone pupae and drones being evicted early in the morning out of the hive. Okay, I stole that picture and put it there. But because it was such a good picture, even though that's last October, but it can happen in rain dearth too, as well, and late summer dearth, it can happen. I don't know if people realize all the weird behaviors. Beginners, I feel kind of sorry for beginners. If you're mentoring beginners and you can explain some of the weird things their bees are doing, please do that, because this is just, they have odd behaviors. And the robbing is no fun. And when they end up with brood frames that look like this bottom left picture, where the bees just aren't coming back, the queen's not coming back and laying in the brood frame. The bees are emerging, and they're emerging. She laid in a spiral, they're emerging in a spiral. That's great, but she's not coming back to lay. Could be she's not there, but it also could simply be that fairy ring residual is because there's not enough food to feed the young, the eggs when they eclose, when they hatch, and the larvae and the bees know it, and they just stop trying to do it. And you see some odd things in your hive. I called that the fairy ring. That's why I put the picture of the mushroom fairy ring there, because I called it that the other day, and I see this pattern and I go, where did the brood go? Why is the queen not laying in there? Could be no queen. Could be just there's not enough food to raise out more brood. This is a picture of 100% drone laying queen, which I want people to know because of the mating problem with this weather. I'm happy anytime to send you pictures of drone laying queens or look at yours. The reason you know this is a drone laying queen is it's 100% drone brood, and it's laid as closely together as the workers can work the larvae. This is kind of counterintuitive to a beginner. Experienced people have already seen it by now. In this climate, you're going to see this. It looks a little popcorny over on the right-hand side one, but that's because as the drone laying queen only lays drone larvae and only drone larvae emerge, the nurse bee population ages out. So when there's lots of young nurse bees, at the beginning, it just looks really weird. This pattern, it's all drones. And then on the right-hand side, it's still all drones, but now it's kind of scattered. Okay, is that laying worker? In this case, no. It's just that the poor old nanny workers are getting so old. They're not supposed to be raising brood after 3 weeks post-emergence, but they're trying to. And so it's still, the queen's still laying in the brood nest in brood pattern, but the workers can't support as much as they could when they were younger. So this is actually, in both cases, 100% drone laying queen. Now, what Colleen had sent me these really neat pictures is of a 90% drone laying queen. And she doesn't look, and what's weird about this is it's drone brood, and then she has enough ability, somehow a little bit of sperm to lay fertilized eggs, because there's these gorgeous queen cells, and they're pretty much in the right position for supersedure or swarming, okay? And they're properly peanutted and drawn out and capped over. But what's interesting about this is it's not all drone. Look at that. It's a compact pattern. She's coming back. She keeps laying wherever she can. And the workers have to take some of the larvae out because they can't raise drone eggs right next to each other in drone-sized brood cells. But what's weird is there is worker brood in here. And we were looking at that. There's the queen right there. She looks absolutely wonderful, doesn't she? Looks like a great queen. And I just want to put that in because I hear a lot about drone laying queens don't look like full queens. Yes, they do. In this case, she's about a 90%. That's kind of an interesting discussion. Anybody got some ideas on this? Genetics, I mean, that's really poorly mated if she's just barely getting some worker brood in there. And here's a kind of a close-up too. So you can see again. Oh, plus this close-up shows the VSH recapping. So good lines, good genetics. The recapping, uncapping, recapping behavior right here on the caps. If you look at them, that's distinctive of VSH genes. She's, this is a worker brood, complete messed up brood pattern. Could be due to a lot of things to get a spotty brood pattern. I don't have a good picture of the scattered popcorn of the workers. That's all I had on the problems we're facing. And then on the queen rearing workshop, I just wanted to say the cassette worked really well. I think the secret was not to have no real other brood nest. Very little brood in the same nest with a well-laying queen. And suddenly she got the support inside. She's trapped inside this cassette, which I have pictures of, I think, in the other queen videos that if you haven't seen, I can send you the link to. But this is overgrown. We went ahead and let the workers start raising it out. So every place you can see white on one of these cups, that she laid in there while she was trapped in the cassette. That system worked really well. And then you take these little cups with the correct size larva in it, and you can put it into this system called a NICOT system. So if you're interested in that, join us. The queen raising workshop still goes for like another 4 weeks. And if you are a glutton for punishment, like Melanie up here in the picture, and you want to go do the Doolittle method, which does work, and some people are great at, where you scoop out the little larvae instead of having the queen put it in the cup for you, you put it in the cup and do this other system. We do both at the queen rearing workshops, and we have made it through over a month now. We're at the checking emergence, checking eggs. Eggs are the proof that her mating flight made it and she got back. So we're starting to wrap up, but we still need a lot of help on Saturdays and Wednesdays. So if you can make it, that's great. Anybody else want to tell what they're doing now? Let's see, let me turn this off. Stop my share. Anyone wants to chime in here? I threw some ideas out there. I don't know about the 90%, why a queen would be 90% unmated with just a little bit of worker brood. And I don't know if those queen cells, how good those are going to be. They look fine. It might be some kind of little genetic defect. She can't open and close the valve that allows the sperm from the spermatheca to go through and fertilize the egg at the moment she lays it.
I'll add a comment, Eli, to back up to Tim,
Oh, okay, that's
Addie's
fine.
comment on the calibration fluid for your refractometers is vegetable glycerin. The little tiny vials that you get for really expensive are a lab grade. You can buy food grade at your health food store, a 4-ounce bottle for one of those little tiny little micro bottles. The only thing to watch for is that when you buy it at the health food store is it comes in plastic bottles, and plastic is slightly pervious, and the vegetable glycerin is hydrostatic. So if you store it for quite a while, it'll set your calibration of your refractometer off by just a few 0.25, 20 to 30% of a point off. And so if you're relying on it, I would buy some fresh stuff every couple of years. This is like 10 years old and I still use it, and it's less than 0.5% off on my refractometer. So vegetable glycerin.
Okay, try it against olive oil and see if it comes out exactly the extra light, right? See if it comes out exactly the same. And these refractometers are still like, are they still like $35 on Amazon? I don't know where mine would be. They're a little, they look like a little short telescope. That one. Did anyone else try really aggressively to swarm control and end up with supersedures? I am sure that what those bees did was they said, well, we've got new queens. We don't need the old. And they just sort of said, okay, we'll do a mother-daughter supersedure if you won't let us swarm. Okay, I'm anthropomorphizing. I don't know.
Yeah, Eli, this is Heidi. I swear all of my boxes decided to swarm for the same time for 2 weeks. And so I ended up losing one swarm, but out of, I mean, I basically doubled my apiary with all the swarms that were going on. And true to form with this weather, just when you think they're done and you look at them like, okay, we're settled now, right? And then this weather goes crazy on us and they start doing this stuff all over again. So yeah, my each one of my hives that came out from the winter got it split at least twice. And not so much split, but taking the right frames out and getting them into a box and just trying to get the hives to calm down. And with the feeding, that helped with the swarming as well, because they can't get out. So feeding them extra heavy or as much as they'll take. So I believe I was feeding, they were going through anywhere from 1 quart to 2 quarts a day. And so that's a lot of feeding. And I've been doing that now for over a month. And in addition to just feeding the sugar water, I believe I posted as well that I'm also putting in vitamins and some herbs to keep them healthy and get them robust and built up. One of the problems that I was having was just, I mean, you see this crazy lady out in the backyard chasing birds. These birds that came into my backyard and thought, oh my gosh, look at this. And they were just having a great time. So I have one box that ended up not getting their queen back. If she did go out on her mating flight, she never came back. And these birds were just gulping my bees down. Literally, I'm watching them dance in the wind, chasing my bees. So I'm out there throwing everything I can. I'm sending my dog after them, you know. And so I think we finally are settled where the birds have moved on. But they've decided to nest in the area and feed their babies and use my apiary and keep everybody happy and healthy, which was so frustrating. Oh my gosh, I was just a mad woman out there throwing things at them, screaming, sending my dog after them, doing anything I can. And I think essentially with all of that going on, I have a couple of boxes that the queens were not mated thoroughly.